Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook, located on the ancestral grounds of the Settlecot peoples. My name is Mike Hoffman, and I am happy to be your worship associate this morning, along with the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, minister at the UU congregation of the South Fork. And also, she is our worship leader today. Our musicians are Tom Pelletier and Ron Posnack, and our tech team is Linda Cortese, Rich Hall, and Rob Pond. I welcome you wherever you may be this morning, whether here in our sanctuary or attending virtually. We are one congregation worshiping together. Let's all wave to the folks at home in the camera on stage right. Our Director of Religious Education is Deb Little. Please plan to join us after the service for coffee and conversation. For those who are with us online, if you sign off after the service and return to our website, you'll find the link for joining our small group chats. Whether here or online, you'll find some friendly folks who can answer any questions or almost any questions you may have. Let us enter into the sacred space of worship with the sounding of the morning bell. Please center yourself and remain silent until the bell can no longer be heard.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning comes from the Reverend David Blanchard. Come down off the ladder, wash out that paintbrush, shake out the sand from your shoes, get up off your muddy knees, fold up the newspaper, turn off the coffee pot, give the garden the morning off. Close up your calendar, already filled with dates and times and people and places that claim you. This church is ready for you to fill its rooms, to create its spirit, to generate its warmth, to kindle its light. This church is ready for you to make it a community, to create beauty, to create justice, to serve its ideals. This church is ready for you to be here, honoring your past, invigorating your present, dreaming of your future. This is your church. Here you are home. Here you are whole. Let us begin.
If I were maybe a wolf or a dog, I wouldn't have to speak, I wouldn't have to talk, just eating my dinner and go for a walk and howl at the moon. And if I were laying there just like you, all curled up the way dogs do, I'd dream that you're dreaming too, and howl at the moon, howl I could carry your black and white, I'd sleep so sound and wake so nice. I'd keep real close to my own advice and howl at the moon. Oh, you know something I don't know, and you go places I can't go. You lift your head when the breezes blow, two voices older than time. Oh, you know something I don't know, and you go places I can't go. You lift your head when the breezes blow, two voices older than time. Well, I'll keep you close, so I like you near. I'll touch your head and pull your ear, watch you resting while I sit here and howl at the moon. Howl at the moon. Howl at the moon. Howl at the moon. Well, I'll watch you resting while I sit here and howl at the moon.
I've invited Maria Cecilia Torres to light our chalice this morning, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. As I say these words by Elizabeth or Betts Weinecke, who was minister at the Live Oak UU congregation at Goleta, California for 18 years. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. Thank you, Maria Cecilia. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing hymn number 83, Winds Be Still.
Good morning, beloveds. I don't know about you, but I'm hearing my favorite sound this morning, a baby. The heroine of our story this morning, Ernestine, has a bit of a problem with her schedule. Her problem was created by her parents, but they, like many of us, did the same thing to themselves. Sadly, I recognize myself in this story, and in conversation with Denise Stevenson this morning, I realized she's going to recognize herself too. I'm working on recognizing the solution. Our story is called The Busy Life of Ernestine Buckmeister. Get this out of my way. Each morning, while Ernestine ate breakfast and Nanny O'Dear prepared lunch, Ernestine's father zoomed out to work and called, "Live life to the fullest, Em." Ern. And each morning, Ernestine's mother zipped out to catch the bus and said, "Make every moment count, Em." And each morning, Hugo from next door asked, "Ernestine, do you want to play after school?" But Ernestine never had time because her busy, well-meaning parents had packed her after-school schedule. On Mondays, she sculpted with Clay Lumpkin. On Tuesdays, she did water ballet with Miss Goldfisher. On Wednesdays, she knitted with Mrs. Pearl Stitchum. On Thursdays, she took tuba lessons with Mr. Oompa Oompa. And on Fridays, she yodeled with little old lady who. On Saturdays, she studied karate with Grandmaster Hiya. And on Sundays, she practiced yoga with Gug Prakesh Pretzel. Thank goodness the Buckmeisters had Nanny O'Dear to help Ernestine stay on schedule. But sometimes things got confused. On one Sunday, Ernestine started yodeling during yoga. One Tuesday, she took her tuba into the pool during water ballet. And on Wednesday, she aimed a fierce karate kick at the balls of wool in Mrs. Stitchum's living room. When Mr. and Mrs. Buckmeister dashed home from work late that Wednesday, they noticed that Ernestine looked pale. That night, she sat on her bed and stared at her schedule. She thought about how Hugo got to play in his yard. Then she had an idea. The next Friday, Ernestine announced, "Today I've scheduled something new." "But you have yodeling," said Nanny. Ernestine giddy up to cross the yard to the park. "Ernestine, now we'll be late for yodeling." But Ernestine reached the hilltop and flopped down into the grass, pulling Nanny down with her. "Look," Ernestine exclaimed. "Oh, the view is heavenly," said Nanny. "That cloud looks like a pineapple. No, a bunny." "Or whipped cream," suggested Nanny. Before long, they were imagining that they were tiny bugs and the world was huge, and they crept down the hill. Then they were pioneers building a twig fort. Nanny showed Ernestine how to make a daisy crown. Meanwhile, little old lady who called Mrs. Buckmeister to report that Ernestine had missed yodeling. Mrs. Buckmeister called Mr. Buckmeister. They tried to call Nanny, but Nanny didn't hear her phone. So the Buckmeisters set out to find their daughter. They went to all her classes. "Have you seen Ernestine?" they asked at knitting class. Mrs. Stitchum replied without dropping a stitch, "Knit 1, purl 2, sorry, I can't help you." They dashed to karate, ran to water ballet, zoomed to sculpting, rushed to yoga, and scurried to tuba. By the time they looked everywhere, the Buckmeisters were dazzled and frazzled. "This is what poor Ernestine does every week," Mrs. Buckmeister panted. "No wonder she always looks so pale," said Mr. Buckmeister. Then, off in the distance, they heard bubbles of laughter. The Buckmeisters trudged up the hill, and there was Ernestine, her cheeks as rosy as apples. "Ernestine Marigold Buckmeister, where have you been?" "Oh dear," Nanny stuttered. "We were right here," Ernestine exclaimed. "It was my idea. We saw pictures in the clouds and rolled down the hill and pretended we were bugs, and then I was a princess, and I want to do it again. I like taking lessons, but can't I stop some of them?" "But how will you live life to the fullest and make every moment count?" asked her parents. "Like this," Ernestine said. "Follow me." Everyone inhaled. Then they exhaled. Since that day, Mrs. Buckmeister bikes to work and has taken up gardening, while Mr. Buckmeister, this name, comes home early to build a treehouse. And Nanny O'Dear has taken up kite flying. Some afternoons, Ernestine practices karate with Hugo. Other days, she plays the tuba. And sometimes, she just plays. Amen. So now I'd like to invite our children to go back to their classes. Justin, there you are. Justin and Melissa will take the K through 4th grade, so if you go to the door with them. And I hope all the kids, even the ones who haven't been in our classes yet, will try them out today. And then the junior high kids, middle school kids, go with Carrie and Jamie, also back to the yellow room. And if everyone would open their hymnal to the very back, and you will find the Reeb benediction, which we sing to our children to send to their classes. Thank you.
I get to invite you into this moment of meditation. And so I want to encourage you to, again, take a deep breath and exhale. Following our reading, and after some silence, Peter and Dee Dee will bring us out of our silence with hymn number 16 in our gray hymnal, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." And so you might want to find that right now in your hymnal. This reading for our meditation today is from Mark Bellatini. It is Election Promises. "I hear," he says, "I hear the polls are going to be open on Tuesday. All day. Good. I certainly intend to go to them. I certainly invite you to go to them and to vote too. But today I say, the polls are not just open on Tuesday. I say they are open every day, every hour, even here, even now. Right now, I am going to vote for the robin's egg sky, the vanilla clouds, the purple shadow spreading under some ginkgo tree. I am going to vote for tulips and redbuds. I am going to vote for love. Love that does not have to run in someone else's circles in order to be love. I am going to vote the homeless into homes. I am going to vote the uneducated into classrooms that teach them in the ways that they learn best, not the way that is most convenient. I'm going to vote the sick into healing. I'm going to vote the lost into belonging. I'm going to vote right now for the right to dream of a world where the word politics doesn't stop me in my tracks and the word honor still has a few good meanings left. I'm going to vote right now for the power of free people to actually be free, no matter who they are, no matter who has abandoned them, no matter who hates them. I actually am going to vote for love. I am going to vote for truthfulness as the norm, not the exception. I'm going to vote for a world that doesn't vote for killing, control, and swagger. I am going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for me right now, right here, silently, but for real. Let us hold these few moments in silence.
At each service, we practice generosity by taking a collection, which we share with an organization working for social justice. This week, we are continuing to respond to the suffering of those whose lives have been upended by Hurricane Helene and Milton, and the changes wrought by global warming in general, by supporting the Unitarian Universalist Association Disaster Relief Fund. The fund receives donations from those who want to support UU congregations, and the wider community following a disaster. The Relief Fund reviews grant applications and distributes those funds to help care for the needs of their members, as well as supporting people in the wider community. In the past, grants have been given to remediate flood, fire, and tornado damage in communities such as Ashland, Oregon, and Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Arlington, Virginia. In addition, the UUA understands the connection between disaster relief and justice making. It is the most vulnerable populations that suffer the worst in a disaster. The Disaster Relief Fund is part of the covenant between the UUA and the congregations, and between our congregations and those in need, and with our community partners. Through aiding our congregations, their members, and the community partners, we are able to embody our faith and values. But the need is high, and the funds are running low. So thank you for your generosity. For those online, the link to donate is in the chat. Will our board members please come forward to take the collection?
If this life is one act, why do we lay all these traps? We put them right in our path when we just want to be free. I will not waste my days making up all kinds of ways to worry about all the things that will not happen to me. So I just let go of what I know I don't know, and I know I only do this by living in the moment, living my life easy and breezy, with peace in my mind. Got peace in my heart, got peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home, living in the moment. I'm letting myself off the hook for things I've done. I let my past go past, and now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, and I believe this way can feel the same for everyone. And if I fall asleep, I know you'll be the one who'll always remind me to live in the moment, live my life easy and breezy, with peace in my mind. Got peace in my heart, got peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. While I can't walk through life facing backwards, I have tried. I tried more than once to just make sure, but I was denied the future I've been searching for. I spun around and heard no more. By living in the moment, living my life easy and breezy, with peace in my mind. Got peace in my heart, got peace in my soul. Wherever I'm going, I'm already home. I'm letting myself off the hook for things I've done.
I let the past go past, and now I'm having more fun. Letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong. And I believe this way can be the same for everyone.
I'm living in the moment, I'm living my life, just taking it easy. Peace in my mind, got peace in my heart, got peace in my soul.
Strong and
Wherever I'm going,
lead the way.
I'm already home.
Everyone
Living in the moment.
It is my pleasure and honor to introduce today's service leader, the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Reverend Johnson has served as minister of the UU Congregation of the South Fork since 2015. Her perspective, insights, and actions have led to social justice initiatives and increased UU influence on Long Island's East End. She is a welcomed, proactive force for change. Reverend Johnson wears many leadership hats. She serves as the organizing collective board, or on the organizing collective board for Black Lives of UU, Unitarian Universalism. Reverend Johnson is on the board of trustees of the UU Women's Federation and on the board of the UU Service Committee. Another of Reverend Johnson's passions is serving our UU youth. She is a leader with the UU College of Social Justice. And lastly, Reverend Johnson was selected to co-present at the prestigious Berry Street Essay, the longest-running lecture series in the United States, on its 200th anniversary in 2020. Reverend Johnson.
It always sounds so much more impressive when somebody else talks about it. So what would it be like for us, I wonder, if we were living in the moment all the time with peace in our hearts and our souls? I thought about this sermon for today, and especially this acronym, KISS. When I was growing up, I learned it as keep it simple, stupid. We were a lot less careful with our words. I have also heard it as keep it simple, silly. Or just a little different, keep it super simple. Or short and simple, or my favorite, simple and straightforward. But because we could also use a little sweetness in our lives. Keep it simple, sweetie. It's actually a design principle that originates in the 1960s with the Navy. An engineer, Kelly Johnson, who worked for Lockheed, the aerospace manufacturer, in his instructions to his designers who were making jets to be used in combat, told them, you need to design something that can be repairable in the field, in combat, by the average soldier who doesn't have special tools or more than the basic mechanical training. In other words, he told them, keep it simple, stupid. It's also used now in software development, in designing all kinds of systems, but you probably have heard it applied to other areas as well. There's a quote that people attribute to Mark Twain. It really is attributable to Blaise Pascal, a French mathematician, who wrote, I have made this letter longer than usual because I have not had time to make it shorter. When we hear it from Mark Twain, we usually hear something like, if I had more time, I would have made this letter shorter. It's a popular idea. It's attributed to lots of people. Benjamin Franklin, our very own Henry David Thoreau. But we also know from our own experiences that simple is not always easiest. Simple is not always easiest, even though simple can be better. I think when I imagine simple as better of Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel, maybe somebody knows this, Coco Chanel, the fashion designer, who would offer the advice before leaving out of the door. Are you nodding? Are you going to tell us what it is? Tell us, June. Exactly. Before leaving out of the door, take one thing off. So I took this advice. Ordinarily, when I am dressed up, or especially when I'm preaching and I want to feel confident, I will wear bracelets. So I left my bracelets, my one thing, leaving out of the door. The thing about my bracelets, when I am preaching, it is almost always at a pulpit. And when you wear something around your wrist, it's dangling, it's clicking, it's clacking. You hear every single clack of my bracelets when I am here at the microphone. It does actually make it better for me to leave my bracelets at home. We could think of it with all kinds of products. I wonder if there is a product that you use that would be better if it were just a little simpler. Maybe there's a fancy gadget in your home that has become a glorified clothing rack, or a dusty paperweight. We are overwhelmed when things are made too fancy, too complicated. I don't have children, but I hear from parents who think about, many of you are parents, spend so much time finding the perfect gift for your one-year-old. And then they spend the whole day playing with the box or the wrapping paper. Keep it simple, sweetie. We are overwhelmed when we have too many choices. There's a study that I read about in preparation for this that behavioral psychologists call the JAM study. And so to set this up, they went to a grocery store, fancy grocery store. I think they didn't describe it as fancy. They described it as upscale, an upscale grocery store that regularly sold 250 different kinds of mustard, 75 different varieties of olive oil, over 300 varieties of jam. Over 300 varieties of jam. And so in this study, they set up two tables with only 24 on one table and 6 kinds of jam on the other. Over and over again, people would go to both of the tables. They would spend much more time at the table with the 24 different varieties of jam. They would make much more purchases from the table with the 6 kinds of jam. In front of the 24 varieties, they would stand and look and maybe compare, and in the end, go away with nothing. With nothing. The behavioral psychologist Barry Schwartz calls it the paradox of choice. The paradox of choice, that modern Americans have more choice than ever, but it has not made us happier. We actually prefer fewer choices because when faced with too many, when faced with too much, we are less content. We are more indecisive, more likely to go away with nothing. And at the same time, our brains are hardwired to acquire things more than to let things go. We get cultural and financial and social rewards for acquiring, adding, in a way that we don't for letting things go. No donors are going to give you a big pot of money for tearing down a building. Can you imagine going to your employer with your argument for a raise about how many things you're going to not do in the coming year? Neuroscientists tell us that the pathways for reward in our brains light up when we acquire things in a way that they don't when we are asked to let things go. We are psychologically rewarded for more. And we actually find it psychologically uncomfortable, painful, when we are asked to let things go. When we want to improve things, think about it. When you want to improve things, do you add or do you take away? In one study where they gave editors a summary, and asked the editors to improve the summary, 75% of them improved it by adding to it. Only 17 improved it by making it shorter. Along the same vein, in a cooking study, they gave people a 5-ingredient recipe. Out of the 90 people, only 2 improved the recipe by subtracting something from it. Everybody else thought to improve it by adding. But maybe less is more. Maybe less is more. We can think about a time in our lives pretty recently, right, when we were forced to do less. Think about our pandemic lockdowns, our shutdowns. We are in our homes, not driving to work, not coming here. Think about how much less we were able to do during that time. Not the being with family, not the hugs, not the making personal connection, but maybe the meetings, maybe the commuting, maybe the carbon emissions, maybe some of the things that we cut out of our lives could stay out of our lives. And just like products, too many products overwhelm us. Our systems can also be better when a little more simple, a little less complex. Just like we don't use or purchase products when we're overwhelmed. Think about a system or a habit in your life, in your household, at work, maybe here in your congregation, that when it is too complex, you either don't use it, or, possibly even worse, you use it in a way that is off-book. You pick the parts of it that you like, the parts of it that seem manageable to you, and then you leave the other parts aside. But when everybody is picking the parts of it that they like and that seem comfortable to them and leaving the other parts aside, what that means is that we are not actually following the same rules. We're not following the same process, we're not following the same procedures, and some of us are probably going to be resentful because they're not doing it right. And other people are going to be resentful at you because they think you're not doing it right. If we, though, thought about designing our systems in a way that are simpler, in a way that prioritizes not our comfort or our desire to include every single thing that we can think of to make sure that people do it the way that we want them to do it, what if instead we prioritize a person that would use that system? Could it be more clear and more simple and more elegant, more easy to use? It doesn't mean that we design our lives or our bylaws or our rules or our mission around everyone else. We are who we are. We do what we do, but could we do it in a way that is more clear? Could we reduce our stress? Could we be more efficient? Could we just be overall a little more easy? Are we Ernestine and her parents zooming and zipping out of the door, schedules filled with activity after activity? Might we be lying on the grass, finding pictures in clouds? If we can avoid overthinking it, if we can prioritize simplicity and clarity, if instead of a to-do list, or not instead of a to-do list, in addition to a to-do list, we also had a stop-doing list. What would it be like if every time you put something new on your to-do list, you put something on your stop-doing list? Seriously, what can you stop doing? Is there a meeting that you can stop going to? Is there a book that has been on your nightstand for many, many weeks that you are not going to read? Is there a task that doesn't really need to get done? Maybe not every week. Is there a relationship that maybe, if it were held a little further away, could make you feel better about yourself and your life? What's the thing that you can do in your own life that can make it a little more simple? My friend read me this poem when I was in my headspace around this sermon. It's called Fire by Judy Brown. She writes, "What makes a fire burn is the space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and the absence of fuel together that makes a fire burn. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. The space between the logs, that is where the magic happens. That is where the possibility lies. We expend so much of our time and our energy adding more and more things, more and more appointments, more and more. What happens if we add less? What's possible if instead of adding, we take away? It is the fuel and the absence of the fuel together that makes fire possible. A fire grows simply because the space is there. May you each hold that space lightly in your life, and may you make more of it. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing our final hymn together this morning in your gray hymnal, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Our benediction this morning comes from the Reverend Sam Trumbore. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to compassion and wisdom, that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. You to wave to the people outside of the sanctuary.
So we always hope you will sing with us if you either know the song or figure out the song as we're going along. But this song in particular, I think it's kind of fun, and it's very easy, and I think you'll figure it out pretty quickly. And honestly, it's the kind of song where it doesn't matter a whole lot what you sing; it'll sound fine. So, and the lyrics are very simple and repetitive. It's the first verse is "Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace," and the second verse is "Hey, look, I found it, my empathy." So. As soon as you figure it out, feel free to jump in. Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace. Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace. Hey, look, I found it, and it felt like such sweet relief. I finally found the inner peace inside of me. This is empathy.
Hey, look, I found it, my empathy. Hey, look, I found it, my empathy. Hey, look, I found it, and it felt so sweet relief. I finally found my empathy inside of me.
And the world goes round and round and round and round, and the sun shines on us all. Well, there ain't no place to run, no place to hide.
And the world goes round and around and around and around. When I'm feeling small, open up myself and look inside.
Here we go. Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace. Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace. Hey, look, I found it, and it felt like such sweet relief. I finally found my inner peace inside of me. That sounded so good, let's do it again. Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace. Hey, look, I found it, my inner peace. Hey, look, I found it, and it felt like such sweet relief. I finally found that inner peace inside of me. I finally found an inner peace inside of me. I finally found inside of